Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County for Wednesday, December 26, 2018. I am the Nighthawk, along with our studio director, Zach, and on the panel, the full house this week, to my immediate right, Red Mumley, to the center, Super Dave Handy, and on the far right is the old pal of mine, Mr. Duke Forrest.
Yeah, welcome back, my boy.
Thank you. So I got back from vacation about 12:45 Christmas Eve, but I want to tell you guys, at this time...
Did you run into anybody coming back at that hour?
Nobody. Tampa Airport, not many people. Atlanta, which is literally...
The airport in the world.
Right, it was a lot of people. But I'm going to tell you guys, 2 weeks ago to this minute, I was watching you guys on Facebook. I was in the Canary Islands.
Oh, wow.
And of course, there's a 5-hour time difference. And I said, 11:30 at night, not much going on. So I said to my wife, I think I'll watch the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. And as usual, it was a good effort. Let's see. The only sad part, Duke made fun of my closing of the show. I do remember.
I thought that was very.
It wasn't
I don't
on
think I was making
purpose.
fun of you. I was just botched whatever. I don't think I was making fun of you.
And it was a good show, except for one part. And the only excuse I have is due to his maturity of life, and that would be Red. You guys were discussing Babe Ruth, which everybody in the free world knows
He's the best
he's the
of the
best
best.
ever. And this knothead here was
Thinking that Babe Ruth.
and I'm going to
know.
myself, here I am.
Are we gonna start this
halfway
again?
across the world, and I'm beside what is wrong with this kid?
Are we gonna start this again?
So
But don't beat up Nick. I heard your colleague on your other sports show, Arnie, today.
Yeah.
The question he posed was, I bet half the people in the country or something don't know, have never heard of Babe Ruth. And of course, Rich said, what are you talking? And Eric, an intern Aaron, said,
Yeah.
what are you talking about, Arnie? Half the people? I mean, just about everybody knows of Babe Ruth, don't they?
But listen, when I do the show, part of the reason is to entertain, but I like to think I can educate as well. But instead of educating viewers, I've got to educate the panelists. So give me 2 minutes here. Red, Babe Ruth, third all-time home run list, 714. 10th in batting, lifetime average, 342. Second RBIs, 2213. First all-time slugging, 69-0. Second all-time on base, 474. Outlandish. First all-time OPS, 1.164. Fourth on all-time...
That's career, by the way.
Right,
Yep.
career. All-time run list, 2174. Sixth on total bases, 5793. Third on all-time walk list, 2062. And those obviously are great numbers, and I will let you go.
Here's my argument.
But here's the thing.
And-
when I look back with home runs before the Babe came around, okay, starting...
Oh, yeah, nobody ever hit home runs before,
1916, remember Wally Pipp? Led the league with 12 home runs. Gavy Gravith, 12.
Love old baseball names.
Babe Ruth, 1918. Probably still pitching, 11 home runs. Then we go.
was.
Then he,
pitching for
then
the
he
Red
went
Sox.
to the Red Sox or to the Yankees.
Right, 1919, 29 home runs. 20, 54 home runs. 21, 59. Roger Hornsby led 22 with 42 home runs. Babe Ruth, 51 and 23, 46 and 24. Hornsby, 39 and 25. The Babe, 47 and 26. His big year, 60 home runs and 27, 54 and 28, 46, 29. Now, again, they're numbers.
Would you like me to tell you why all those stats don't matter?
No. I'm trying to get over this tension I received in the Canaries. Okay, now, the all-time, it's easy to spiel numbers, but I always like to say compared to who or what.
Compared to his peers.
So, exactly, David. So the 20s, Babe Ruth, out of his 714, hit 467 home runs in the 20s. The runner-up was the great, I think he played second baseman, Roger Hornsby.
Rogers Hornsby.
Of the Pittsburgh Pirates. 250 home runs, almost doubled them. Okay? Doubled them. And, I can go on and on.
Babe had more home runs
All right.
than many teams.
Here's the
Wait,
thing.
no.
Okay,
You
all
had
right.
your time.
I did not have my time. Okay.
Now, pitching. Okay. Forget about his hitting. He was the best pitcher in baseball. Babe Ruth was touched by the hand of God. This guy was so talented. Of course, he started with the Red Sox. And let me get going here. I'm sorry. Hang on. Pitching.
Wasn't he the only guy in the World Series to pitch consecutive shutouts or something?
Yeah. Well, I
he's
think Whitey Ford beat him. I think Babe had 31 and 2/3 shutout baseball during the World Series, and Whitey broke it with 33 innings. Okay, so with the Red Sox, he 1915 he went 18-8, 2.44 ERA, 217 innings pitched. 16 he went 23-12 with a 1.75 ERA, 232 innings pitched. In 17, 24-13. 2.01 ERA, pitched 326 innings.
think about that.
Then in 18, he pitched 166. Then the following year, 133, and with an ERA of 2.22 and 2.97 because he started to get at bats. And then, of course, I think it was 1919 that year he got traded to the Yanks because the owner wanted to finance a Broadway show. But not only that, the Red Sox management was sick and tired of Babe Ruth's antics. And like you said, he liked his ladies.
Yeah.
Different beer, different lady every
In
night.
fact, the great story, which I'm sure you've heard, was they're on a train going somewhere. All of a sudden, a naked Babe Ruth comes tearing down the aisle. Naked,
I never heard
buck
that one.
naked, with a woman close behind him, maybe with like a knife or something.
Well, the movie The Natural, the Whammer or whatever they call them, was modeled after the Babe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoy a good, healthy discussion,
Yeah.
like who's the best hockey player, which you guys talked about. And it is, and I'm a Canadians fan, and the utmost respect for Bobby Orr, but I hated every time he played against us. And I'll let you go for 5 minutes. But the thing about Bobby Orr, he was a half a man with playing on one leg, had to retire at age 30. We only saw,
at age 30?
Yeah, with the Blackhawks. And if he was healthy, I couldn't even imagine how good he is. So I'm going to sit here, shut up, and give you your time to somehow explain to me why Babe Ruth isn't not only the greatest baseball player, greatest all-time athlete.
The argument isn't that he's not the best player of all time. I never said that he's not the best player of all time. My argument, the whole thing stemmed from former Rockies pitcher Adam Ottavino coming out and saying, I would strike out Babe Ruth every single time. And he would. That's my point, because Ruth did all those great things and surpassed his peers in all those ways, and that's really impressive. And yes, sure, that makes him, if not the greatest player of all time, certainly one of them. The thing is, though, those pitchers were pitching like 70 miles per hour tops.
Yeah.
Like Babe Ruth today wouldn't make it on most college teams.
Couldn't he? But again, you're not giving me any. He could adapt to this.
Right.
Don't
They'd probably get rid of that.
In the
42
show,
ounce bat he had,
if
too.
I may quote the great David Handy, I think he said during the show, well, I think these guys were good enough where they'd be able to adjust in a new era.
Yeah, I just don't think, I think that takes it a little bit too far, though. Like, you're saying, I think you're just looking at, how these guys played back in the day. And obviously, you can bring up all these hypotheticals now. Oh, they'd have these kind of resources. I'm just looking at, the situation then and the situation now. Adam Ottavino would strike out Babe Ruth on 9 pitches 3 straight times. I think it's, that's not an argument, because Adam Ottavino can throw 100. That's 30 miles per hour faster than Babe Ruth had ever saw in his career.
Right, and I will concur with you that it's difficult to judge one era to the next. But when I look at Bobby Orr when he came up in 1966, and I've watched old hockey games.
Yeah.
They're so much slower.
Oh, yeah.
So much. Like I watched the Celtics triple overtime game with Phoenix, 1976.
Yeah.
These guys couldn't even make an NBA roster today. However, guys like Dave Cowens could adjust, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, times today, they don't work, because back when us guys were watching football, all these football players were earning about $18,000 a year, and they had second jobs, whether they were selling insurance, working for UPS.
Digging graves, or Richie Hebner.
Richie Hebner down in Massachusetts.
The other thing is that you can't do it. You can't say, okay, well, Babe Ruth couldn't hit today's pitching. Well,
Yeah, I agree.
could any of these guys have made it back in 1920 without
where
the
were-
weight rooms?
Where were the fences back then?
Yeah, they're like in Yankee Stadium was 470 feet out in left field.
Luck.
Now it's a quarter of that.
Yeah, it's just too hard to say because everything is different. But if you compare what my standard is how does somebody compare to his peers at that time?
Yeah, that's
Right.
ditto.
And he is without a doubt, he was so much better than everybody else that nobody, even the greats like Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, they were all really, really good, but they weren't triple as good as the next best guy.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I don't think that the argument here, I don't think that is an argument that, he's not one of the greatest players of all time because you just read off all his stats. I mean, it's impossible to look at those and say, okay, I'm not impressed by that.
Yeah.
But for this specific argument, I just don't think it matters because I think that baseball today is, light years ahead of the game that it was 100 years ago. And so that's why I don't think that.
And
there's
again,
an argument there.
there's no argument there. Today's athlete is so much better because the weight rooms,
I think,
nutrition.
I'll tell you what, I think of all the sports where just raw humanity makes a difference, I think football is where the players today are not that much better than the guys that were playing. Oh, they're bigger and they're faster. But you can't tell me Jim Brown wasn't. Jim Brown got 12,000 yards in 9 seasons.
And 14 game schedules. Jim Brown,
12 games, too.
12 games he started out of Syracuse, which I consider the greatest football player of all time.
Yeah.
He,
Right. Even more better than LT, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, boy, that's hard. Football's a hard sport
because
to compare.
LT's really something else, too.
LT, if you had to, Jimmy Brown offense, LT defense.
Yeah.
And but you take like
Add that, as someone who didn't grow up with Lawrence Taylor, when I hear LT, I think of LaDainian Tomlinson.
yeah, Lawrence
Who
Taylor.
was a very,
Lawrence
very
Taylor
good
could
guy.
win a game all by himself. No, there is no player. Maybe Khalil Mack.
Could Lawrence Taylor still play for the Giants today?
Oh,
Could Lawrence?
yeah.
That's just
At his
right?
best, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Rod, the funny thing to me is most of his career, LT was coked up. Okay.
Yeah.
He would have been even a greater player. And I think
I don't
probably,
think he worked a weight room.
Right.
He just
and he hardly practiced. But I think, getting back to baseball, if he would have stayed off the bottle and he did it 8 nights a week with Mickey Mantle, was a certified drunk. His father died at an early age. He knew he was going to be dead by 44, so he tried to pack all his life in this first half of his life. And he said towards the end, if he knew he was going to live that long,
he'd have
would
taken better care of
taken
himself.
better care of himself and taken the game more seriously.
Yeah.
Well, the big difference too, like Mickey Mantle tore his knee up 2-3 times. In the old days, all they had for surgery, they didn't reattach your ACL or MCL or any of that stuff. The only surgery they did is they would take the whole cartilage out. If you had a tear in your cartilage, they would just take it out. And it would be okay for a little bit. But boy, as the years went by, you got bone on bone.
Bone on bone, exactly.
It was.
Can I ask you a question, though? And I was down at my parents' today. We talked briefly about Sandy Koufax. He retired in 1966 at the age of 30, and I think
Really,
he had
32.
arthritis in the elbow.
Terrible elbow. He probably
And
needed.
He pitched
Tommy
over
John.
300 innings, and probably the greatest pitcher like on a 6-year span that we've ever seen. If Sandy was pitching today, do you think the surgery?
He wouldn't be pitching 300.
They wouldn't have had him do 300
But
innings.
you think maybe a Tommy John would have cleaned
Probably,
him up?
or maybe he just had bone chips. Who knows? I mean,
Yeah, I bet they could have done, dealt with them.
You're a
you
little
think?
bit older than me. I mean, you saw a lot more of Sandy Koufax. than
Yeah, but I
did.
mean, at Dodgers, I didn't,
You're an American.
But I
guy.
agree. In my mind, talk about, one of your greatest pitchers for sure.
You look at all of these serious injuries these guys have, and they come back just like Beckham. That was a really nasty injury, he had, and he's all better.
Yeah. So
And everything was different. The sports in those days were really a diversion.
And David, another thing too, when summer training camp opened up for football players, they were all out of shape. They were all fat, and they worked the fat off. Now,
Same with baseball too.
Right, exactly. It's a 12-month job, and you show up to camp out of shape unless you're an elite player. They're going to cut you. Say, hey, you don't take the sport
Well,
seriously.
in hockey too, Al McNeil used to coach Canadians,
Yep.
and he played in the NHL for about 10 years. He used to sell insurance in the off season, and these guys were just, of course, the big sport. Well, what you don't realize, and we watched a thing last night on that 30 for 30 was Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas.
Call 42 to 1. Yeah, the odds.
The big sport, the biggest sports in 1950 were what? On pro wrestling and boxing, and horse
and
racing.
horse racing. They were the elite sports.
Those
Yep.
were your biggest sports. NFL, NBA were
The NBA
were
was
sidelines.
literally, I think, just I'm
Teetering.
reading a great book about Cousy right now that you might like that I got at the library.
Is that the new book?
It's a
that
new
just
book
about Bill
The
Russell?
Last Pass, especially about Cousy
I
and
took the
Russell's
book out,
relationship.
Duke.
Oh,
and-
really?
and didn't read a single page of it, and I had to bring it back.
Oh yeah, I'm reading. It's a good book.
But when you look, I think.
Oh yeah, the NBA was just in fledgling NBA.
But I think what's happened is we've sucked all the life and the enjoyment and the fun of sports out of it almost entirely in the youth level, because the parents, the kids never play. When was the last time you were out in the driveway just shooting baskets?
all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he's a sports
basketball.
You're
TV star.
You're not looking at your typical.
Right. He is.
kid, yeah.
No, he's not your
Because
typical.
I mean, that obviously is a
all the
huge
kids I
compliment.
coached, I mean, maybe 1 in 15, 1 in 20 would have a net in a cellar and just shoot pucks.
Is that right? That few, huh?
That few. And
I did that in my garage the entire time I played hockey.
oh, see, guys today, they if the parents aren't there and they don't drag them to practice, they don't do it. And I think that's why our Olympic teams aren't really that good anymore, because the other guys, you take our you would think that when we send an Olympic basketball team over, we ought to crush those guys. But they don't play teamwork. They aren't fundamentally sound. They're better athletes,
Right.
but their fundamentals
I mean,
stink.
the World Juniors of hockey that are starting today, Team USA they have 8 first-round draft picks from this last draft on their team.
Oh, that's pretty good.
USA hockey is doing all right, but I understand where you're coming from.
They've taken a lot of the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And
it's-
well, look at that business with the gymnastics.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Think of those people. They force their kids. They shove them into that pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And you got that fool Nasser, and
Larry
then,
Nasser.
but that Bella Caroli, they were just using these girls. They were like basically pimps, if you ask me. Hoping that one out of 20 of them turns into Mary Lou Retton or Nadia Comaneci. I mean, it's. I think we'd all be better if we could just cancel youth sports till 10 years old.
Yeah.
When you got 11 and 12-year-olds getting Tommy John surgery because they've been pitching so much and throwing 90 miles an hour and going to these showcases down in Texas and in Florida where the colleges are signing them up.
Yeah.
And it's the same in hockey. UVM's got a couple of kids signed up that are 12 years old or 14 years old It's just ridiculous.
Well, there's that kid. I don't know if any of you guys ever saw it, but he went viral. Probably it was around the time that the Bruins won the Stanley Cup. And I don't know. You ever watch the intermission of a Bruins game? They'll have the little. They'll have the kids go out and skate around on the ice and do the shootout thing. And well, this kid scored just an absolutely ridiculous goal in the shootout. And at the time, he was like 9 years old. And now he like immediately started like getting offers from colleges at like 12 and 13 years old. Like he had an offer from Harvard at 12 years old. And then he went on. He plays for BC now, and he was a first round pick for the Islanders. So like this kid's been in that spotlight since he was 10.
Yeah. And what kind of people does it make?
Right.
And you know what I'm really disgusted with? Because I've watched a lot of football this year. And I mean, it's petty. I can't stand all the celebrations. I can't stand the photo bombing and the whole thing in the end zone. These guys are grown men. Do they have to act like that?
David, of course, being away on vacation, I had to DVR 3 Giant games. So today I took time to watch the Redskin game that they won 40-something.
Oh, that was a rout.
Okay, and the Giants were doing this photo bombing. It's so immature, and I'm not sure why the ref doesn't throw a flag for unsportsmanlike.
They don't do it. It's not unsportsmanlike now.
So they don't bother penalizing
the fans
folks
like
for
it.
that.
The younger it appeals to the younger generation. Basketball players are all look at this. This is awesome. We're dunking on everybody. Football was people were starting to call it the no fun league. We're like, these guys can't celebrate when they get sacks and all that. This is no fun. We're gonna go watch another sport. The NFL was afraid that they were losing
Right.
people.
Our generation was brought up to act like you've done it before. Okay?
Right.
You get the touchdown, you hand the ball. And I say it a million times during the fall. You watch Friday Night Football Frenzy, the high school sports, and these kids score a touchdown. They either leave the ball there or they go give it to the ref. There's no why. And I said, for a 16-year-old kid, you sure are mature, because if you were 26 in the NFL, you'd be
college
acting like
football
an
is
idiot.
just as bad now. But it's all, we've lost the whole sportsmanship. And, to go back to George Bush passing, he was from an era when you didn't rub the other guy's nose in it, and you had manners.
Or at least in his case, he would hire somebody to do. He wouldn't do it
You'd
himself
hire.
at least.
He would
Let's
do
not
it.
forget some of the stuff he did.
did,
I don't mean to paint. Let's not paint this guy as too much of an angel. But I hear
You're
your
right,
point.
because when he had the guy that do that Dukakis had,
The
and
Willie
Hort.
Horton had and stuff.
And then the other one where Dukakis was in a tank. Lee, not Edgewater. Lee.
yeah, you're
Iacocca?
close.
Lee
Atwater. Lee
Yeah,
Atwater.
Water.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
But your point's a good one.
And it's not just Bush, but I mean, there was a time when, when I was playing in grade school and in high school, you didn't mouth off, you didn't show off, you gave the ball, and you try to teach kids that today.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing though, like honestly, like the NFL I think is just, we all know it's obvious that, the younger generation isn't built like that. It's just not the culture anymore to be humble like that on the playing field of any sport. And, I think it's fair to say that the NFL has kind of turned their backs on your guys' generation and saying, okay, these guys have been watching us for years. There's nothing we can do to make them leave. Like, the whole
That's
national
true.
anthem
that
thing.
did make me leave last
The
year.
anthem thing, the celebrations, you don't like them, but are you just going to stop watching the Giants? No, you've been watching them for 30, 40 years.
50 years.
50 years. You've been watching the Giants forever too. So it's one of those things where the NFL is like, okay, we've got this younger fan base now. They haven't been watching for as long. It's not as important to these guys as it is this older generation that's been watching for longer periods of time. So we're going to do things that appeal to the younger generation to make football lifers like you guys.
Now, Saquon Barkley looks like a gentleman.
He's a quality guy.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything stupid.
Yeah,
So,
that's
Now, even if you watch this thing here, he's got on 2001 Patriots Oakland Raiders playoff game.
oh,
Yeah.
You don't see them when they got a first down. They don't stand up. They just get the ball and go back
Got
in
a
the
call?
huddle.
Like the Steelers guy last week.
We have a call too?
Yeah, we got a call.
Okay, let's
you
do
see
it.
that?
Good evening. You're the first caller tonight on the Best Damn Sports Show in Franklin County. Hello.
Hi guys, how we doing?
How you doing?
Merry Christmas.
Good, good. Yeah, I think what goes on, in my opinion only, what goes on today is the lack of respect for the game. You see none out there hardly, and that the word respect is out of the game. It's out of their dictionary. And I know what you said, Red, the younger generation, this and that, but what is missing is respect. These things in the end zone, there's some pretty cool ways, a quick spike or something, but this photo flash or whatever you guys call it, I mean, I look at that and I would be embarrassed to be a part of that. I don't even want to tell you what it looks like, but it just gets sickening. I mean, sports is fun. I grew up around it like you guys, but I do not have the passion for it that I once had. I mean, I'm a Ram fan. We've been flat on our face since the year 2000, and they've picked up their pace. They're having a good year. But if a game was on, I could easily get up and walk away from it. I have lost my passion for it because of the lack of respect for the game. And, in basketball, you got LeBron James that could almost walk on water. He's kind of tainted basketball for me. Some of his statements recently has made me dislike this guy so much. I mean, and then I read today he left last night's game with an injury. And my first thought was, geez, that's too bad. Couldn't have happened to a better person, So back in old school, and I hate to bring old times up, but like David said, this stuff would not go on. Imagine doing that photo flash with Vince Lombardi as your coach.
Yeah.
Or Parcells. I mean, it just wouldn't happen. So I guess, it's more acceptable at a younger age. You guys were brought up into it, where us older folks were not. So I guess being old is part our fault, but it's just kind of hard to take that on at times. And, that's kind of how I feel. The game deserves more respect. And it isn't everybody doing it, I mean, some score a touchdown with dignity, and others
Barkley's
just
a
make
perfect
fools
example.
of themselves.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. I mean, it's just the culture. I mean, the culture has very clearly changed of the entire country over the last 20 or so years.
I hate to use the word microcosm of sports of the rest of society. I don't think there's a whole lot of respect out in the real world.
Yeah,
period.
it's not the world is not about respect anymore. It's about making whatever you can do for yourself. And people think disrespect is funny these days. It's one of those deals. But I just think
respect belongs every place.
it does. But it's just a cultural difference now. I mean, the younger generation just doesn't agree with that.
Right.
Am I one of those people? No, but
for your generation, but this is our complaint, our generation, or to me, I don't speak for the group, it isn't acceptable. I work around a very large group of people every day, and that's the number one thing that you want when you work, respect for each other. You don't have to agree with them, but just have the respect. And everything you do in life, that should be part of it.
Right.
David, when your father was around, I never once called him by his first name. It was always Mr. Handy, And I'm 60 years old now, and I'll see people in the Elks Club, okay, if I'm there Friday night for some beers, and they might be all school teachers, and I'll still call them, hey, Mr. Duke, hey, Mr. Red, and, Rick, you can call me. He said, no, I can't,
Well, you know what? The kids all watch these video games, and the video games have all that crap in them, and I think that's part of it. They want it to be like Madden.
Yeah. Right.
And it's like baseball. It's like baseball with the home run trot and the bat flips, and it's I don't know.
You know, it's just, it's, you know, the NFL is going to try to appeal to this younger generation because, like I said, you know, we're not, my generation's not hooked on the NFL yet like your generation is. It's one of those deals where, you know, they're going to go out and try to do whatever they can to make the game as entertaining as possible and appeal to, you know, the millennial generation, you know, the 15 to 35-year-olds that want to go out there and, you know, see these people disrespect each other because it's entertaining. You know, you look how popular the NBA is. The NBA is not popular because of its on-the-court product. Quite honestly, the on-the-court product sucks. They love the NFL or the NBA so much because of the off-the-court drama between the players. I mean, they love, you know, oh, Kevin Durant or LeBron James said this about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant said this in response. You know, Kevin Durant's not going to go play with LeBron next year anymore. Like, that's dominating the talk of the younger generation because it's entertaining. And that's what these pro leagues are going to go for is, you know, what's entertaining for these people. And, you know, they know that they've got the older generation hooked, so, you know, they can turn a blind eye to it. You guys, the majority of you guys will still keep watching it.
And I will
Watch it for
agree
so
with
long.
you. I'm addicted to the New York Giants. And last year, I certainly was not addicted to the NFL, as I told you last season. Once that flag kneeling during the flag deal, I didn't watch one single game other than the New York Giants because they're my heroin.
Right.
But once the Giant game was done, I shut it off and I could care less.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, you know.
Yeah, you know, one sport, though, that hasn't been too affected is baseball. You get a little
Right.
bat flipping or stuff, but you even watch now, and I think it was it Machado or somebody that did not hustle down the first baseline last year?
Yeah.
And I mean,
Sounds like Machado.
he was benched the rest of the game. It did make the news, so there still is in baseball.
And-
you know, you don't run a ball out, you will be sitting the bench. So
Bobby,
there's still
can
somewhat of respect and discipline in that game.
Can I ask you something, Bobby? What was the lowest, you know, what sport out of the major, you know, professional sports in America had the biggest drop in attendance last year? It was baseball.
Baseball.
You know,
I
the
don't know.
millennial
I'm gonna
generation
guess, since
sees,
the
you know,
question was brought up during a baseball conversation, I will say baseball.
right. The drama isn't there as much in baseball because people still respect the game. You've still got your Brett Gardners of the world who are gonna, you know, who are gonna take everything so seriously. You know, Brett Gardner. We've talked about how he hates Players Weekend, and you know how he got so mad when the people put the nicknames on the back of their jerseys. He's an old time guy. You know, I think that's, you know, I think that's pretty cool. But, you know, my younger generation looks at baseball and they're like, oh, that game's boring. That's an old man's game. And attendance
You
is
know what,
declining.
Red? You're scaring me. You're going to be paying our Social Security, your generation, and you're scaring the hell out of me.
Yeah, I'm not much more confident in my generation either, Bobby. But, you know.
Well, I'll tell you
That's
what,
just how
I
it
think the
goes.
reason for baseball, though, baseball has its own particular issues. When you only have about 7 or 8 of the teams that aren't tanking,
Yeah.
you take a look. You had about how many teams? Wasn't it a record this year that had 90 losses or more?
Yeah.
Well, I think the same argument could be made in the NBA. I mean, there's, you know, you've got
Same
you've
process.
got 8 teams in the NBA that have a chance at winning, maybe, and you know the rest of them are all just trying to get to that level, rebuilding. But the attendance is still high, TV ratings are still high, and people are addicted to the NBA. My generation's addicted to the NBA because of the off-the-court drama.
The good thing about baseball, they can police themselves because if you show up a pitcher about 42 minutes later, he's got a baseball in his hand, you're in the batter's box, and he can put a 98-mile-an-hour fastball right at your head. So
The other game that still has a little bit
What
of
about hockey? Hockey
Hockey's
is
still
hanging.
got-
I love interviews. Hockey players still seem like the
best
most
of them.
normal, regular guys. Not you don't get the impression.
Yeah.
You know, Duke, I'm glad you brought that up, dude.
Yeah,
I was
hockey's.
watching the game the other night, the Bruins, and maybe it's just me not watching a lot of hockey, but I said to myself, geez, it seemed like years ago there was a lot more fights in hockey. Is it just me, or has that calmed down?
No, you're right.
The thing about
You're right.
the thing there is that, you know, hockey, the enforcer has been completely removed from hockey at this point.
Yeah, not too many Dave Schultzes around these days.
There's a really good documentary out there. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but It's a story about Chris Nyland, who played for both the
Knuckle, I hear
Canadians,
him- I hear
both the
him on
Canadians,
Montreal radio just about
Yeah.
every day.
played for both the
Knuckles.
Canadians and the Bruins, and he goes through and he talks about the old days and Bobby Probert. And all these guys that were literally out there just to fight people and nothing more. And those guys are gone.
Oh, yeah, they're gone pretty much.
Because it's all about scoring now. So that you're not going to have Connor McDavid get into a fight. I mean, the enforcers.
Bobby Orr got in quite a few fights.
Right.
Bobby Orr was a tough nut.
Enforcers of today's hockey, Tom Wilson on the Capitals. He's he's one of the biggest enforcers in the league now, but he can also go around and put
he's
up
a good
20
player.
goals a season.
Yeah.
But aside
So-
from that, I love, just interviews. I mean, hockey players always, they come across as regular
Oh, yeah, definitely.
guy. You don't get the impression, you want to interview me? Okay,
And
yeah, I'll
even-
give you a minute or two.
even
They
into,
come,
like,
don't
free
they?
agency.
They still come across as the most
All I can
regular
tell you,
guys.
probably 25 years ago, I
love 'em.
heard, I don't remember who it was, but it was a famed writer, and they asked him, what sport's the best to cover?
Yeah.
And he said, by far, hockey players. These are down-to-earth guys, could have been a farmer out in the prairies,
Yeah.
but these guys are just regular Joes.
Yeah.
Well, the Canadian guys are. The American hockey players now are getting to be a very high
They're kind of
high
catching,
income
They're
pampered
catching,
country.
they're
club.
catching that disease a
Yeah,
little
they
bit. But,
got a lot of that.
I think you look at free agency even last year. John Tavares was just one of the biggest free agents to ever sign elsewhere in the history of the game. And Tavares, he didn't say, oh, I'm openly being recruited by these teams. He didn't make a big drama scene out of it. He said up until the last minute, listen, I'm considering everybody out here. And, he wasn't disrespectful to the Islanders or anything. He said, listen, I want to go win a Stanley Cup. So he went to Toronto. He didn't make a huge deal out of it. It wasn't really a huge, massive story because, he kept it quiet. Biggest free agent signing of all time. And, it was a non-story for most people because there wasn't a whole lot of drama around it.
Caller, anything else on your mind tonight?
No, I guess that'll about do it. So we'll bid good night, you guys, and great show.
Thanks,
Thank
Bobby.
you.
Happy New Year, buddy.
Hey,
Thanks.
I watched.
I haven't even started the show yet, by
I
the
know.
way.
The other day, just for fun, because I went to the Bruins Canadians hockey game.
I knew that. What a horrible game you saw.
It was the worst
Yep.
Canadians game I've ever been in my
Yep.
whole life.
Yeah. They
Canadians
didn't
were
play
quick to
that.
acknowledge
They
as
didn't
much, too.
play that well.
Supposedly, I'd heard that they might have had their Christmas party Sunday night.
Okay.
And so maybe they were a little hungover. But whatever the reason, there's more checking at the Christy Corrigan BFA Comet tournament than there was in that Bruin Canadian game.
That right?
There was nothing.
Really?
Now, one tradition that's kept over the years is hockey players love beer.
Yeah.
And they drink a lot of beer after games.
And but what I was getting at was, we were talking. I was talking to one of my guys at work, and I said they didn't even get after Marchand.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
then the old days,
unacceptable for a game in Montreal, yeah.
it was awful.
That did sound like the Habs played a
It was
pathetic game.
awful.
Yeah, you got to go.
But we were talking about calling Marchand like Claude Lemieux. And it turns out Claude Lemieux was a dirty, rotten, awful guy.
But he
had-
could play.
Had 4 Stanley Cups. He was the MVP of the 1986
For the Jersey Devils?
Stanley Cup playoffs. I think
Or
it was
for
Canadian.
the Canadians. They beat.
Was it really MVP?
They beat Calgary that year in the
But
finals.
so I brought it out to Bud. I was showing him when he hit that guy from the Detroit Red Wings. I forget. Was it McCarty? Who was it? It was
Oh, yeah, it was McCarty.
no. McCarty's the one I think that beat the crap out of him the next time. I'm not sure, or maybe it was.
Hold on.
You look up Claude Lemieux and it'll come. Claude Lemieux checked the guy face first right in the boards. He lost all his teeth, broke his jaw. He was out for about 6 months.
Yeah.
The very next time they played in Detroit, you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And once it got going, the referees didn't even bother to get anywhere near it. And Claude Lemieux just turtled.
I remember that. Yeah.
Oh, that. And
Well, yeah, those guys, those Marchand guys, they aren't fighters. They're going to, they're
Lemieux cheap shot.
yeah,
That's
they're
it
they're
right
gonna
there.
they're gonna go after you and get in your head, and then back out and let the big guys go in and fight.
As great as Marchand is, and for the Canadians, their likeness is Brendan Gallagher.
Oh, you hit Chris Draper.
I just think Marchand and Gallagher both, they're not going to slide. I think they're just going to fall off the table where you're going to, wow, these guys are great. Marchand plays hard every shift he's on.
Well, you don't need to lick somebody.
Oh.
How
That was
what a scumbag move
that
that
he
is.
even lost me at least for a while on that. That was
Who'd
insane.
want to lick a hockey player?
So
He got. I think he got the word pretty clearly. Hey,
Yeah, watch
hey,
this. This is
No,
Oh,
you can't.
yeah.
You've crossed a line big time.
Yeah.
Don't ever go near there again.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment. I remember sitting there watching that and just saying, "What are you doing, man?"
Even he, I think, realized he had really.
well,
screwed up big time.
Oh wow, they got his face all cut up.
So the big news in sports today, I think I'll start the show halfway
right.
in, is Justin Herbert
Yeah.
declared he is going back to the University of
Really,
Oregon.
it's going to be a duck another year, huh?
And
so he will.
according to the pundits, the experts, this is the weakest quarterback class ever to come out.
Ever?
Ever.
Wow.
Now,
Really?
Yeah.
God, my guy's going to be.
Well, yeah. Now that it is,
Probably have a job,
I
huh?
think that's fair. Yeah.
now
I don't think we
Haskins
see a
from
quarterback drafted
Ohio
in the first
State
round.
has come out of nowhere and he's put himself into the top 10.
Yeah,
But the Giants right now are picking 8th, and they figured Herbert would be available to them. But I don't think the Giants there's nobody worthy of a top 10 pick. So what I think the Giants are going to do right now is either go for an offensive tackle, the kid out of Alabama.
We could use some pass rush too.
Right.
Our defense can't finish the
Right,
game.
exactly. Guy out of Kentucky, he's a edge rusher. Name escapes me right now. But what I think is going to happen in the second round, I think the Giants will have the choice of this Will Grier from West Virginia or Daniel Jones from Duke.
Yeah.
If they believe Kyle Lauletta. And only they know. We certainly don't know what
If
goes on.
I've read a lot of stuff. They almost have an article on Eli Manning every day in the New
day.
York Post.
He's playing really well.
Eli Manning's not the problem. And when the Giants were good, what they had was a ferocious pass rush. Their pass rush stinks.
Yep.
And the problem that they've got is all the teams that are ahead of them in the draft this year already have quarterbacks.
Yep.
So they'll all be grabbing for the pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got at least another 2 years left of Eli.
Thank you. I agree.
And I think what they need to do is pass rush, cornerbacks, linemen, offensive linemen. And now that they're teaching these guys to play football like men, they did a decent job of drafting this year. And Eli it doesn't matter. If you can't stop these teams, the Giants lost 4 or 5 games this year where they were ahead on the last drive.
Right. They've lost, I think, I talked to my father, they had 4 games this year. They lost on the last drive.
Yeah, and man, to me, honestly, like looking at that, that's more of a coaching problem to me than anything else because you're as an NFL coach, you're calling the plays.
No pass rush.
Well, can I throw out a statistic?
I get that you don't have that, but I mean, at the same time, like, they get too conservative every time they get these big leads
if they blitz, then the other guys eat them up. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place because their offensive linemen.
And we've been talking
are
about the
tough.
O-line all year, but David's right. Their defense is as bad, if not worse, than the O-line. But let me throw this stat at you. The New York Giants roster right now, compared to what it was at this point last year, we have 13 players on the team right now left that was on the team last year. So this is your basic 101 rebuilding program going on right now. And if we think it's going to be rectified even next year, no.
Well,
but like Olivia Vernon played great first year as a free agent. Him and Jenkins, he's a bum. Jenkins is a bum. So we've got to cut these guys, get some cap money, and
High price free agents just don't work out in football usually.
I just think the passion isn't there because they weren't brought up by that team. That they don't bleed New York Giant blue blood.
And I think that, you see it league wide, free agents, they show up. I think Adrian Peterson's the only guy I can think of that could really go anywhere else and really have like some decent success. There's probably other guys out there, but once a guy leaves his original team, for the most part,
Yep, you're right.
That's I don't know if it's just going into trying to get used to a different system, or these guys are all system players. It's strange because free agents they get paid constantly every single year, and you've got these guys that just go out there and do absolutely nothing once they get cut from their team.
Tom Brady was on Westwood One today, and he announced he'll be back next year.
Oh,
And
he said that?
He's looking past. I think Brady is going to play until he breaks the leg.
But he didn't give you any line today that he's going to be there for years and years. Did he just
He
talk
hinted
next year?
at that, but
He said his goal is to be playing next year and beyond.
Yeah, and that's the
Beyond.
word. Thank you, and beyond. And
Right.
Gronkowski
Don't
is a
count on
shadow
him.
of himself.
Yeah, I think
everybody
Brady's
agrees
gonna
there.
be
So
fine.
here's the
Gronk
name
looks
I'm
like
going to
he's
throw
gone.
out to you. Tight end out of Iowa, Noah Fant.
Yeah.
Okay, tight end. The Patriots like a good tight end. So if he's around when the Patriots pick, that'll be the. I don't think Gronk's coming back next year.
I could.
Or the conventional wisdom is he just looks like a shadow of himself.
I think we'll likely see Kimbrel back before we see Gronk. That's my bold prediction for the
And the
night.
Patriots.
It's Gronk.
could
He
be.
must be just hurt.
He's just 29, but there's
He's-
a lot of miles on that
Oh
body.
boy, he's taking.
Well, you
a
saw
pounding.
the play against
Against Miami,
the
yeah.
killer play
And,
with Miami.
somebody asked you, is Gronkowski a Hall of Fame player? Absolutely not, because he just hasn't played the
Not
number
enough
of games.
time.
He's missed half his career.
Oh,
Just that last
boy.
play against Miami said it all. I mean, they've stupidly got him back as the last guy
David?
standing, and he stumbles as he tries to get the
Did
Miami
Bavaro
guy.
get in the Hall of Fame?
I will liken Gronkowski with a jersey, my classic Mark Bavaro jersey I'm wearing right now. Bavaro was the best tight end when he was playing, but he missed so many games. He never accumulated the games played, hence not enough catches. And Gronkowski was, when playing, a great player, just hasn't played enough.
Yeah, he's missed. I don't think
He's,
seems
he
to
is
be.
a shell of his former self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Patriots, I just want to say, I know they're going to finish 11-5, but every year I say 12-4, next topic, because they lost that silly Miami game, which Gronkowski missed on that tackle. But the Patriots, and I know the playoffs start in a couple weeks, but until New England loses, I'm still picking New England to go to the Super Bowl this year. Kansas City Chiefs, no defense.
This is
Well,
not a
the
great.
thing
I
about
think
the
it-
Chiefs
You're
is that they
absolutely
No
can't.
defense.
The Chiefs haven't won a big game.
Yeah.
They go out and they have these big games. They have chances.
So
to win them.
educate me. Who
Boy, Hawk,
who
the
is
Pats. I'm a huge
I know they're
Pats
not
guy,
the
but-
usual Pat, but who's better set up to go to the Super Bowl?
Well, I'd say the Chargers struck me as a better team.
Chargers looked terrible on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Actually, folks like the Ravens, who usually play
Ravens,
the Ravens
might
concern
be
me.
a team that sneaks
The Colts.
in.
I mean, Indianapolis
They-
has won 8-9. Andrew Luck's having
Yeah.
a great season.
The
I think they're a bunch of teams to
the
me who
Colts,
are better
this is-
than the
this
Pats.
isn't
But I
the
hear
Colts.
you.
It
Until
is-
they get beat.
Yeah, it is very well balanced.
The Colts aren't a good enough team just yet. I think next year this is the best team in the AFC. I think the Ravens are really good right now, but I think the Lamar Jackson hype is going to kind of fade away once playoff
He's
time
not
comes.
a passer. But you know what the turning point for the Colts? This is the guy I wanted drafted.
When Flacco got injured.
They
Lamar
drafted
showed up.
Quentin Nelson,
Yeah.
guard out of Notre Dame, and they said this was the best guard probably ever coming out of the draft. And I like offensive linemen. And this Barkley kid from Penn State, forget about it. Go with Nelson. And I've been reading a lot about the Colts, and they said to the man that it was
he's
Nelson
been
that
awesome
turned
this
that
year.
whole offensive line around, hence giving
Well,
Luck
yeah, Andrew Luck never gets sacked anymore, and that's huge
some-
because
used to all the time, yeah.
right, you give
I
a
still
guy
wouldn't,
like Luck.
I like Barkley.
I love Barkley too.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
too.
as a Giants fan, I think complaining about drafting Saquon Barkley wouldn't make any sense
No,
at all.
it does
But,
not.
He was
yeah,
a good pick.
Yeah, he was a good pick. There's a lot of talent in this year's draft. That's what we're learning.
but no quarterbacks.
Daniel Jones has a ball game tomorrow. Wouldn't hurt him to have a pretty good game for a change.
Second round guy. At this point, Haskins from Ohio State, Drew Lock out of Missouri.
I'm not touching a
But
quarterback.
just is that right? Just a
They're
really weak
two
class.
locks in the first round. You know how many running backs going in the first round in April?
None.
None.
Because, I mean, you look at Chris Carson on Seattle. He was tearing it up the other night in the win against Kansas City, and he was a 7th-round pick last year.
I don't even know where Carson came out of.
I can't tell you. And the
I don't
Steelers,
remember
their
look
big
at
backs on the sidelines all season.
Philip
Lindsay,
Lindsay
undrafted.
Lindsay from Denver was an undrafted free agent.
Imagine,
Really?
he turned down $14.5 million.
Who did?
The
No,
guy
the
from
Steelers guy.
But he set out the
Oh,
season.
yeah,
Von Bell.
yeah. I
Right,
know.
smart
Yeah,
guy.
and then James
dumb is
James
that?
Conner, a
I guess dumb, unless
sixth-round
he
pick or
gets
whatever it
a
was.
50, 60, 70 million dollar contract next
Who's
season.
going to want him next year because
Connor.
he's been out for a year?
Right. And then you have James Conner. I want to say a 3rd-round pick, maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head. But
Yeah,
he went
in
out
general.
had a Pro Bowl season. And then when James Conner goes down, Jalen Samuels comes up and it plays just as good. And so, I mean, literally any running back can... Any running back in the league.
I bet you they offered him decent money. I
Right.
bet you they offered him $50-60
Bell's.
million.
I think Bell's career is. I think he'll get a shot for another team. I think he's going to be half the player he was before. But I mean,
really.
honestly, any guy that's on the roster, you put any guy in the NFL in the right system, they can be successful. The way this running, the whole running back position is featured now. I mean, Kansas City is on their 5th running back of the season, and this guy's running around. He got me like 30 fantasy points the other day.
His agent did him wrong.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
So, David, I've got my notes. OBJ, again, on,
Trade him to the Patriots
on
right now.
vacation. So I just watched the
don't
Redskins
know about
game.
They
And
might just
what
take
a
him.
pleasure it was to watch a Giant game without OBJ on the field. I would like to take him. He already has a contract, so whoever gets him knows what they're going to be paying. I would love to trade into a team in the top 10 and get a draft pick.
I think he'd bring you maybe 2 number ones.
Do you think? I'll take it. I'll take a 1 and 2.
There's no way that he would bring in 2 first-round picks. Absolutely
A
no
team
way.
like the Patriots that their pick is 30th. That's like a second
Well,
round pick.
Listen, one of those draft picks, that taking on that salary is like giving up a 2nd-round pick, honestly. I mean, that is a lot of salary. And then you have the Brandon Cooks trade to base it off of.
Let me
Cooks
ask you
was
guys-
a top receiver last year. He got traded for
Yeah, but
the 30th pick.
OBJ is better.
Better than Cooks. Let me ask you guys
Not
this.
an entire
The
first-round
Oakland
pick.
Raiders traded Amari Johnson or Cooper,
Yeah.
Monte Cooper, okay, for a first-round pick.
yeah.
Okay. Raiders need a receiver. I thought they might go for Herbert,
Yeah.
but he's, as I said, not around. So they're going to stick with number 4.
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. He needs a number 1 receiver. I think OBJ would be a great landing spot in Oakland.
I just
and that's
think-
a top 5 pick right there.
I
So
think it's
that's a good trade.
I think it's impossible for the Giants to trade OBJ
but
right
don't
now
you think
because of
with
that
the
contract.
ego that John Gruden has, that he would
No.
think he could?
It's one of those deals where nobody is going to bring in a guy like that who has that big of a contract. You've got to bring in this massive contract. You've got to bring in this massive personality. Not to mention, you'll have to give up a first-round pick in the deal. There's 31 GMs in this league who will laugh at the Giants' asking price. It's
Can I
just
ask
not
you
going to happen.
Question, a human question. At what point does a guy like OBJ actually grow up?
And that's
maybe
I don't
never.
know. And, my guess is as good as all those other GMs who aren't going to even think about trading for him.
I like using
Giants
the
are stuck
cliche.
with it.
There's no I in the word team. And
Right.
it's always, the Giants could win a big game and OBJ would get 3 catches for 38 yards and start grumbling that I'm not being used.
The thing is about OBJ is that he is not a game changer. He's a fantastic receiver. Don't get me wrong. But the Giants, he's been the only guy on the Giants for a while on that offense. And the Giants aren't a good
if
team.
we had a quarterback that had a little bit more time to throw, because they have to throw the 3-yard pass all the time because he's knocked on his rear end.
But the thing is, it just he just is not that game changer. These guys are going to go out with that. A first round pick is so valuable in the league today because you can get Lamar Jackson at 31. Would you sitting in the Baltimore Ravens seat right now? Would you trade Lamar Jackson for OBJ?
I got to tell
sense.
you, Lamar Jackson right now is great because he's a great runner.
Right.
He's not a very good passer.
No.
And
I don't think he lasts
I would
either,
not.
but-
No, I would put him on my team and say, Lamar, you play the way you want. You're going to lose your knees.
He's an RG3.
Right. You're going to lose your knees.
Yeah, I'm not
within
sure he's
couple-
a long-
Right. He's
Right,
not a
yeah.
long-term guy. But play him until his knees get shot.
Now, what about the guy, not Winston, the guy with
Mariota?
with Houston?
Deshaun
Watson.
He's actually a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he looks like a pretty good.
He's
quarterback.
starting.
Yep.
I'll tell you who's good.
He can throw the ball though. That's the thing.
That Russell Wilson is a good quarterback.
I agree. He seems like he doesn't get the good word. Some
again,
folks like Colin
Wilson-
Coward love him. I think
Playing
Russell
in
Wilson's pretty
Seattle,
good.
you just don't.
Oh, well, I really hate his coach. I can't stand.
Carroll.
Pete
You know
Carroll.
what?
Just signed a
Dude,
multi-year
he's the same
extension.
age as you, Pete Carroll.
Is that right?
He's turning 70 next year. I cannot
Here's the thing about
been
Russell
around.
Wilson though. Like he plays in Seattle, and he had that hype when the Seahawks were really good. Now the Seahawks are
Plus, it's a
above
ground.
average
They
team.
run a lot and stuff. He doesn't have to pass a lot. But Russell Wilson strikes me
Wilson
as pretty
is
good.
a
QB.
top 5 quarterback in football. We just don't get to see him a whole lot, and people aren't drawn to him because getting back to what I was talking about earlier, he's not a drama guy. He's not going to go out and have this flamboyant personality.
His
he's
girlfriend?
He's humble.
Is it Sierra? Is that the pop star?
And runs. He mixes in some very.
Yeah,
when
and
he
he
has
can
to, he
move.
can run.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
type
very
in
good.
your machine here.
Now, you know who is good too? It's that Mahomes.
right.
good.
That kid's got a
And
future.
people love him because he's got that cockiness to him.
But he's a thrower.
And you know
too.
what, David? This Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield is pretty
This
good too.
guy,
Yeah.
if I'm in a dark
got
alley,
moxie.
if I'm in a dark alley, I want him with me. This guy is a fighter.
Look at what Cleveland. They must have really hated Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. I don't
Because,
know the
boy,
story.
they've really turned it around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's funny because every time the Browns played Hugh Jackson, who's now with Cincinnati, Baker Mayfield's taunting him as he goes by after throwing a touchdown. I just think that's the funniest thing.
big stare down.
They must have, there must have been something that Hugh Jackson did there that just made everybody hate that guy.
David, I want to jump on the diamond here, and I've been scratching my head, and I haven't seen you for a few weeks.
Have you missed? You haven't missed much, Hawk.
There
You've
hasn't been
traveled.
much.
No, I know. But David, I'm so confused and just dumbfounded about Machado going
know
to the
it.
Yankees. Now, they've got a kid, Miguel Andujar, if I'm pronouncing his name, as a rookie last year,
Good.
Duke.
Very good.
Led the team in batting average, 297. A rookie, 27 home runs,
Wow.
92 RBIs.
Wow.
So I'm going to myself, boy, that's a pretty good player right there at third base. I know he's not a super great defender at this point.
He was awful.
Right. But he's getting probably $580,000 a year
Right.
versus
Nothing.
Machado's probably going to get minimum $30 million a year. I'm going to myself, this guy, they're set for the next 6 years, paying him nothing. And at shortstop with Didi gone, they can pick up a kid like Freddie Galvis, who's a serviceable player.
Could they move this? Could they move Andujar to short or not? Is he?
They couldn't move
no way.
Andujar to short. There was a lot of talk about
Andujar's
him
a
to first.
So
Andujar's
David,
a
could you
bad
please
defenseman.
All right.
He
explain
can't play
the love
defense at all.
affair, the logic? I don't
know
understand.
where it comes from. If I were going, I've told you guys this, if it were me, I'd be more interested. Not that I'm that interested in either one of them, but I would be more interested in Harper because our lineup is too right-handed.
But Harper has no interest in playing there.
He doesn't want to play in New York.
Here's the thing. This is
yeah.
the love connection between the Yankees.
If all of a sudden he got $350 million, he'd learn to like New York just fine.
Here's the thing about Machado and the Yankees. Machado, he loves the Yankees. He wants to play for him. He's made it
He's
clear.
a Bronx kid, or where's he
he's
from?
Dominican.
He's a Dominican guy. Okay.
But yeah, he loves the Yankees. He said, "Listen, I want to play for the Yankees." I don't think the Yankees were that interested in, but it's interested in him. But it's a good fit because you look at Machado and he's kind of this disrespectful guy nobody really likes. the Yankees are the disrespectful team that nobody likes. You know, they're the evil empire. Machado is a villain to the majority of baseball. It reminds me so much of A-Rod.
The Yankees, to me, are
can't.
a very likable ball club, and they've done such a great job of the pitching staff. And last year during this time, we said, well, who's going to finish in first? We all conceded, well, whoever doesn't will get a wild card. But I'm saying right now, December 26th, I'm picking the Yankees to win that division. That pitching staff is loaded.
And so why not have the Red Sox gone down, or have the Yankees gone up, or what?
The Red Sox.
Well,
Yankees are a lot better. Their starters are a lot better.
Yeah.
They got one new starter.
Paxton and Happ, really.
Jay,
New though. I mean,
Well,
Happ just-
we only had him for 2 months.
Yeah, and the Yankees blew the division in the
But
2
if
months
Mr.
that they had.
Price can continue on as finally getting it together and
Maybe.
the starting five for the
Evaldi as
Yankees.
well, I
Listen
mean.
to this:
if
Severino,
Sale's healthy.
Paxson, Tanaka, Happ, and Sabathia.
Yeah.
That's
bad.
great. Versus the Red Sox.
I'm not sure. C. I mean, I like
Sale,
CC. I'm not sure I'd.
Price,
CC's old.
Porcella, that didn't pitch well last year. Evaldi, to me, is still a question mark. Erod's an injury waiting to happen.
Erod's an incredible pitcher when he's healthy.
When he's healthy.
Also a pretty good pitcher.
Right.
So I mean, I think that
But with that being said, the Red Sox still will get a wild card. I'm looking at FanGraph on the computer, and they've got all their predictions for next year. And they've got, I think, the Red Sox winning that division with 98 wins. So it's a 10-game drop-off, which I've always said.
Nah.
It like you win less 10 games, but you're still.
So the one game wild card that's hanging in. They're they're not making.
No
I've never heard
I just have
any
real mixed
overtures.
feelings about that.
it's
Yeah.
stupid.
Of course, it beats
Even
beats
2
not
out of
getting
my
3.
feeling
2 out
about
of
it.
3 would even
Right.
make.
So
me
let me
feel
ask you
better.
guys this: that big trade between the Reds and Dodgers, has that set the Dodgers up to get Bryce Harper? They gave up Kemp,
Going
who's
for it.
getting 20-some odd million a year. Puig got quite a good salary. Alex Wood was getting good. And Alex Wood's a very good pitcher. Cincinnati got better in a hurry here, but the Dodgers cleared out their payroll.
I think
But
that's what it.
What I'm
that's what it
hearing
looks
from the
like.
Dodgers, they don't want to give him a 10-year contract.
Right.
You know, maybe 5 or 6. I just want to get back to the Yankees quickly. When the Nats signed Patrick Corbin, he had a scheduled date one night with the Phillies, the next night with the Nationals. He didn't have a date with the Yankees. The agent called the Yankees and said, "We'd like to sit down with you." Corbin wanted to pitch so bad for the Yankees, loves the Yankees, and they sat down. Yankees would not budge from their 5-year stance, and they offered 5 years, 100 million.
Yeah.
Really?
And they said, the Yankees might have gone up to 105 if you push them in the corner, maybe 110, but they were not going to that 6th year. I mean, and I look at Corbin, he's had 2 really good years, but he's not a blue chip player that is going to be great. Same as Evaldi, doesn't have a resume to
Right.
But that's what's happening. There's so few good pitchers available now. The Nats traded Tanner Roark to the Reds because he was going to get $10 million.
All these people getting traded to the Reds. The Reds might be good next
Reds
year.
will be good this year.
Well, I think they picked up a lot of flotsam from the Dodgers. I mean,
Well-
Puig, they weren't even going to start him this year.
Do you know the
And-
Dodgers?
And Matt Kemp
Maybe
is
the Reds
older
are the
than
Vegas
dirt.
Golden Knights of baseball next year. The island of misfit toys that just happens to win the Western
The
Conference.
Dodgers offered Puig straight up for Bryce Harper at the trade deadline, which I certainly would have done, and I hate Puig. But if he ever grew up, he's got so much talent. But the
He's
Nats,
a coach killer. He's just like Beckham.
but the Reds could be the land of misfit toys. They're the Scooter Jeanette at second base, one of the most underrated players.
People forget they still have Joey Votto.
Votto, unbelievable Hall of Fame
They've
career.
got a really good third baseman, Suarez there.
Anthony Suarez.
Yeah.
You're right.
I mean, they got a decent team. Billy Hamilton's one of the fastest players in all of baseball. So,
Billy Hamilton
Didn't
is
they
now
trade him?
in Kansas City.
they traded him
Yeah.
to Kansas City.
Yeah, he is fast. So, but
Yeah.
isn't it?
That
And
makes me
again,
a
I
little
haven't
bit
seen the
upset.
guys in 3 weeks. Nothing's happening.
Miller got a pretty good deal, but I didn't think it was big money. He went to
Did he?
St. Louis.
I didn't even know. I'm not sure.
I didn't
even
see what
notice
he
that.
got.
2 years, 25.
Miller's.
Is that right?
Of course, he was really hurt. He's been.
Yeah, he's been hurt since
course,
the World Series in 16.
Cleveland really used him hard
Yeah.
a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and he really wore out his arm on
But
that.
St. Louis isn't screwing around. I got the feeling St. Louis
They
is
got
getting very
yeah.
serious.
when they picked up Goldschmidt.
Right.
Now, see, Goldschmidt was a guy. If I'd have been the Yankees, I'd have
Goldschmidt
kicked
is
the
their
tires on
Harper.
Goldschmidt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's gonna be interesting, but yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised though if the Yankees don't get either Machado or.
Well, the thing about the Yankees that they've been lowballing everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, Cashman is just like, listen, we're not going to spend any of this money. And I think a month down the line, as we get closer to spring training, I think Cashman's offers now are going to be more relevant. But I think we haven't heard anything because of what happened with JD Martinez last year. The asking price for Martinez was almost double what he got, and their teams are saying, listen, if we just sit back, we could save a lot of money here.
So when do you think Harper or Machado will sign? Are you telling me it's going to be February?
I think they both sign in the first week.
I'd
of
say
January.
Harper.
First week of
it sounds
January?
like he's being just very methodical about
Yeah.
this. Sounds like January, another
Well,
few
he's
weeks.
got, of course, he's got Boris too. That's
Right.
But it sounds like he's giving
I think Machado's going to
every
sign.
suitor some
Machado's
time.
going to sign first. I think one of them will go to the White Sox.
But you look what the Nats have done by saving $35 million
Machado goes to the
a
Phillies.
year. They've been able to pick up Corbin at 23, all-star catcher Jan Gomes from Cleveland. They've been able to sign Trevor Rosenthal, who didn't pitch last year, but used to be one of the top relief pitchers in baseball. They picked up Kurt Suzuki, backup catcher. They've picked up some really nice pieces, and that all equates to pretty much what Bryce Harper would be getting.
Right.
And again, with the Nats, their outfield is not a huge question mark.
In baseball, it's about quantity over quality. And look at the Red Sox last year. They had the stars, but it was the Evaldi's
Evaldi,
and
the Pierce
the
of
Steve
the world.
Pierces
I
of the
know.
world that won
Funny
them
how
that
that
World
works out.
Series. I mean, Mookie Betts had a terrible World Series. If you go
Joe
back
Kelly,
and look at it.
he signed with the
Joe
Dodgers.
Kelly,
He got good money.
3 years, 27.
It's
That's
all
not bad
about-
for
Not
a guy
bad.
that had an ERA of like 4 point whatever.
Who was
That's
just
his
very
one
erratic,
shot. That's
up and
his
down.
one shot
Yeah.
at a decent contract.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
good for him.
baseball championship winning teams are made from teams that have these, not only the stars, but the role players. It's
Remember-
a decent mix of both.
Speaking of
that
which,
wins
Heath
you a title.
Hembree, the Sox grabbed him for what 1.3 mil of
Right.
one-year contract.
When I think it was 1972, David, the Oakland A's, I think they won 3 years in a row. And the MVP of that first year, remember the catcher?
Rudy.
No, it was
No,
Gene
Gene
Tenacci.
Tennis.
Gene Tenacci.
Gene Tenacci.
Okay, he
Gene
was
Tenacci.
just a like
Gene
a
Ten-
two
Tennis,
Tennis,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Team tennis.
Oh, Tenacci.
You
Where
were
did
you were
that come
pronouncing
from?
his
He
name.
was, he was an Italian.
I never knew that.
Right,
But
Gene
he
Tennis
was
was
like
the
a
pronunciation.
230 hitter during regular season, and for whatever reason, he just got on fire.
Yeah, we could forget Gene Tennis.
He really had a hell of a World Series.
It was Gene Tennis, now that I think of it. I guess I call him Tenacci. 'cause
Now,
he
was it
from-
Joe Rudy the year before or the year after was MVP?
Could have
I
been.
like Joe.
I still remember Joe Rudy, and who was the other Oakland?
Vita True Blue was
the Red Sox.
colleague.
They were in the Red Sox uniforms. They had a picture.
And the
that's when
commissioner, what,
Bowie
vetoed it?
Kuhn
Vetoed
the trade. And I think there was another player going to the Yankees because Charlie O'Finley was just clearing his payroll big time.
Well, that was back when the commissioner actually worked for the benefit of baseball and not just as a lackey of the owners.
So Craig Kimbrough's the other one. That to me is waiting
wouldn't-
for 6 years, $100 million. Good
As
luck
Nick
with that.
suggested, I wouldn't be stunned if nobody comes calling and he ends up back at the Red Sox on a reasonable
3
deal.
years, $40 million.
Yeah, I mean the Red
The
Sox.
would the Red
they
Sox
said-
go for that, Nick?
Well,
Would
what
they
they
go
said,
for that?
what I mean, Dombrowski's come straight out and said it. We're not going to make a move at relief pitcher until Kimbrel makes up his mind on what he's going to do.
No, is that right? He said that?
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he just went and takes the 1 year deal with the Red Sox and tries this whole thing again next year.
He should have taken
the qualifying.
the qualifying offer.
Jeez, right.
The qualifying offer is what, 18, 19 million
Offer.
bucks?
Yep,
isn't
but
it?
it's only a year.
Yeah, but
that's
pretty
why
good
that's what
money.
he didn't like.
Only a
because
year,
he
probably
wants
enough
that
to
same
get him
money
through
over
life.
6 years. And that's
Right,
his problem. You know, nobody's going
Well,
to pay
just like
that
the
to him.
Steelers running back. Yeah, these guys are,
I think Kimbrel goes one more year. If he can, find the old Kimbrel that he used to be and kind of shake off everybody's memory of
and maybe
of the
he could get
playoffs,
one big contract.
I think that he could get a big contract that he's looking for.
But you know what,
now
Red?
it's
I
just
don't
not-
mind spending $10 million on a maybe pitcher like Kimbrel.
Yeah.
Instead of spending $100 million over 6 years, about $18 million a year.
Right.
That's a long commitment if he's not going to come back to the old Kimbrel.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm perfectly okay with, signing him to a 1-year, $20 million contract. I'm perfectly okay with that. Yeah. If the Red Sox want to give him a lot more in one season than he's asking for per season, then, the contract length, I'm okay with that.
The other big player, and again, there's a dearth of baseball news, just nothing, is Kluber is in conversation with the San Diego Padres, and I know they're deep with the Dodgers as well. I'm kind of shocked that Kluber would be traded because it looks like they ridded a lot of payroll earlier in the offseason.
Yeah.
Cleveland's still a very good ball club.
Well, they picked back up their first baseman that they traded to the Phillies.
Carlos Santana.
Carlos Santana, absolutely. But with Kluber, Carrasco, and Trevor Bauer, that's a formidable starting three right there. So I'm not sure why. And they weren't the best last year, but nevertheless, they still won 91 ball
Well, I
games
think
last year.
they've lost. Their attendance was second worst.
Yeah.
And they just can't afford it. And they have to do something. And they can win that division with Larry, Moe, and Curly.
You're right.
Pitching. Because they are a good team.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, somebody mentioned to me yesterday, I didn't see a story. Someone said, Richard, why are they having problems getting a musical act for the Super Bowl? Did I miss that story?
I missed it
I missed
completely.
it.
That means nothing to you.
Now, I record the
puzzling,
Super
but-
Bowl, starts at 6:30, and I'll start watching it around 11 o'clock. And when halftime hits, I click on that 5-minute button, 4 or 5. Half times are longer at the Super Bowl. I think it's 25-minute half.
Oh, yeah.
And I
they're certainly longer.
don't watch
I
the
don't watch it.
halftime
So you
show.
hadn't heard that, huh?
Yeah.
I always go do something else during halftime, but hopefully I'll have a reason to watch the Super Bowl this year.
Now, the Celtics, that was a real lovely Christmas gift. What an enjoyable
Boy,
basketball game.
My man JJ just missed an in-and-out three-pointer to win it for Philly.
Yeah. Before we get started, JJ Redick, I have so much respect for. There's a guy
JJ.
that plays hard every second, and
He's from the old generation of basketball.
He was a
players. This is-
serviceable player when he came out of Duke.
Yeah.
Slow white guy, but he has turned himself. He really
Decent
is
player.
the leader of that 70.
Yeah.
There's a lot of immature players on that Sixer team. They have a lot of talent. But this Joel Embiid, he's a child. I mean,
Pretty good
but,
player,
but Kyle,
pretty talented player.
Kyrie
He's an idiot.
got 40 last night, and when Tatum wants to really turn it on.
There was a reference last night. Ben Simmons hit like a 22-footer, and the reference I heard on Sports Talk Radio today was that was the longest basket he's ever made or something.
Who's that?
Ben Simmons. He
Yeah,
just has
I
such
I remember
short
that
range.
shot.
Sixers
Oh, this
are
guy
good.
can do
See the shot.
everything but shoot. But my only note for the
Everything but
Celtics,
shoot,
Duke,
right? Yeah.
it's another scratch in my head moment. And it's
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward. He's a Jap, just another player, or a Jag, just
I
another guy.
heard talk about him today, and the line was, I mean, just the physical injuries. He's coming back slowly. He's certainly not where he was last year, but
Right.
he's a lot better than he was game one of the season. But it's been
He's
it's
not
been
helping.
slower.
Like if Kyrie and Tatum aren't doing the job.
Yeah, I think-
because I thought when Kyrie had an off night that no big deal, Hayward's there. And I was the type of guy, and I said, and I quote before the season started, what's the point of even playing the season out? It's going to be the Warriors and Celtics in the finals anyway.
And I told
After's look
for the record, I said that's insane.
Right,
insane
I know. I
talk.
usually say
Yeah.
insane
We
stuff.
got
Yeah, you
four.
did
You got
say
four.
that.
Yeah, you can make the case the Celtics are no better than the fourth team in the East
Celtics
right
are
now.
just
Toronto, Philly's close to them. Milwaukee.
Celtics-
What about Giannis? How good is that
He's-
the
guy?
only problem is Giannis is all by
The
himself.
Celtics
but-
right now, Duke.
Milwaukee. The Celtics didn't easily get past Milwaukee last
Well,
year.
and the Celtics.
Home court advantage is the only
The
reason.
Celtics
they
are
got
currently in fifth, 1 game behind the Sixers, a game and a half behind the Pacers, and 3 games behind Milwaukee.
Pacers.
Did the
a team
Celtics have
nobody
picked up
talks
Kwame
about.
Leonard instead of Toronto? Look at
He's a good player.
No, he's a very
Toronto, I'll
very
tell you
good
what,
player.
I don't know.
Maybe the best
Toronto,
player in the East.
It's such a great team. They play team basketball.
very
They're
good.
You know
not-
who was the number one seed in the East last year?
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toronto may
obviously
well be the
Kwame
best
Leonard,
team in
dude,
the
this
East.
guy's supposed to be pretty good.
Yes, he
Have
is.
Kawhi, but
Kawhi's
you know,
very,
it's
very good.
still. I mean, they have a history of just being bad when the playoffs come around.
But these NBA players they're unbelievable. How athletic and talented,
the talent
skilled.
in the NBA is
it's
just
it's
unreal.
mind-boggling how good these
Huck,
people are.
what about Jason? I just haven't noticed him as much. Is it not like he's taken a step back? I mean, Hayward's back. He's just not
I
as
think the
key a
Celtics
figure.
Well, what happened
are just a
simply,
bad team
if
this
you
year.
remember
What,
last
23?
year,
He had a good game last night, right? 23
But if you remember
points.
last year, everybody was injured with the Celtics.
Sure.
I said to you, I just want to win the first series, just get a little bite of the pie, and we're injured up. We're not going to do anything.
Exceeded
Lo and
expectations
behold,
big
Terry
time.
Rozier and Jason Tatum, then all of 19 years old, it was reliant on these kids, and Tatum was unbelievable. But coming in, there's just too much talent
I think
to
you
make
can
them
say
into
that.
a great ball club. And I would love to trade Hayward back to Utah or somewhere because Brown hasn't had a good year. There's just not enough time.
I think you just got to be patient with it.
Horford's
This
had
team,
injuries.
There's something not right with these guys, but I just feel like once the playoffs come around, they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
They've got the talent. They've
probably
got
the
the
deepest,
experience.
about one of the
They're
deepest team
so
in the
deep.
East. Anyway,
the smartest thing that the coach
Brad Stevens?
Stevens has done is inserted Marcus Smart in the starting lineup because best players start, and Smart is a defensive stalwart, and that's who you want to have him defending.
And a player we haven't even mentioned who might be having about the best year, Marcus Morris. How good is that? Talk about under the radar guy. That guy's a very good player.
Brad
who gets
Stevens says
zero
he's our
attention.
most consistent player this year.
Very good player.
And he'll be a free agent after the season. But this,
All right.
Kyrie's a free agent. He's indicated he wants to
Kyrie
stay.
Kyrie can play. Kyrie looked pretty good.
Kyrie's
His tying shot, unreal. Such
There-
a soft.
Yeah,
touch
there's
on that
nobody
shot.
in basketball in the world better than him than finishing. I mean, everybody can get through players, but to finish and switching hands.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty
he's
good ball player.
He's undersized and he can play.
And
at
he's
the
been
rim.
playing. Sounds
And
like
again, I
he's been
still
playing
remember
some
getting
defense,
on
Hawk.
Duke here when he came out of college.
He's
I
been
said,
playing
Duke,
some defense, I think.
who is Kyrie? You don't even know who Kyrie Irving is. He's played 9 games in college, and he's getting drafted first by Cleveland. Who is this guy? We
But
don't
the
know.
folks who had him as a good player, I mean, he had just come on big time. His last year in high school, I guess, was unreal. But now Kyrie can
Well,
play.
I remember the first year playing with Cleveland. Tommy Heinsohn, goes, and everything Tommy
love
Heinsohn
Tommy.
is the gospel. He goes, this kid's going to be a Hall of Fame player, and I go, sheesh, Tommy, that's a little. And at this point of his career, he could very easily.
You guys are really that high on Tommy Heinsohn?
No, Hawk. I mean, Hawk. I don't see it. Hawk watches every game. I don't see him much.
I think 10 years ago he was a really insightful guy. Now I think he's kind of lost his mind.
He's aged. He's like 84 years old, and I agree. He's not as sharp.
I remember,
But I love him because I'm a
again,
Celtic. I'm
when
a
you
Celtics
get our
guy.
age, we appreciate.
Tommy Heinsohn last year at the beginning of the season said one thing. So he said something about Aaron Baines I'll never forget. He was like talking about how Aaron Baines was from Australia, and he's like, "Oh, I'll tell you, I saw Aaron Baines the other day in the locker room after he got out of the shower, and those Australians, they're built." And I was just like, "Tommy, what are you doing?"
Better that. Glad he wasn't talking about a black guy at least.
Aaron Baines is a great, one of the best,
Yeah.
if not the best, defensive center in basketball. Of course, centers get no publicity anymore.
What I love about Aaron Baines is that
Tommy's
he'll go
great.
up.
No,
He
Tommy's
doesn't.
great.
He
I love
doesn't
Tommy.
care if he's gonna if he'll get dunked all over. That doesn't matter to him. He's gonna contest every single shot at the rim, and a lot of times he'll just get completely annihilated by the Giannis's of the world. But a lot of the time,
Everybody's
he's
got
good,
company.
Right. A lot of the time, he's a really good rim protector, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
He is. So preparing for the show, it was one of really, you got to be kidding moments. Golf, of course, my favorite
Kapalua.
Next
Day-
week?
Kapalua, a week and a
from
half
tomorrow,
away.
right?
Yeah.
Week and a
Tournament-
half. Wait, week and a half? About 8 days away. What do you mean a week and a half?
What day is this? Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
Oh my
Thursday.
gosh.
8
Yeah,
days
isn't it-
away.
Isn't it weird that
Week
it's
and a
Wednesday?
half,
I woke
come
up
on.
this morning and
I have
was
no
thinking,
idea what
okay,
day
it's
it is.
Monday, but
So it's
Wednesday.
8 days. But Tournament of Champs, and you guys had to explain that to me last year. Like I was
Winners, just
saying.
winners only,
Yeah,
including
winners,
Tiger.
like-
Including Tiger is playing, I assume.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because he
And
sounds like
I
he's
know
got a
you've
very
played there
limited
before,
schedule.
but it's the most beautiful golf course in the world, right off
the
the ocean.
18th was the incredible drop. It's a par 5, right?
600 yards.
600
but-
yards. They can
Hey,
tee
I
it
was
before-
I was on it too.
Is that?
Of course, I wasn't playing from the but they 17 and 18 they're coming down the hill. It's like going down Hardack, and you hit the ball and it just goes. But what the TV doesn't give you a feel for is how windy that course is.
Yeah.
Because it is on the top of the mountain, and the wind is always blowing.
Yeah, such a beautiful place. And I watch probably that tournament more than
I watched a
probably
good
the
hit at
Masters
Kapalua.
might, just because it's Masters.
and-
but this
And
just
the
and
Sony
again
Open
being in January,
follows.
Yeah.
getting some blue sky and green grass
yeah.
looks good. But what turned my stomach was the match. Part 2 is coming soon to a TV near you.
No
kidding.
way.
It's
It's coming
match
back
part
next year
2?
in some shape or form. Now I read
God.
they got nearly 1 million people did subscribe
I did too.
for 1995.
I did, but I got
No,
my money back.
No,
You got
right.
your money back?
I got my money
No,
back.
I was tied up with hockey, but I probably would spend the 20 bucks.
I
I'd
was
watch-
thinking there was nothing on TV.
Right.
Oh,
I drove to,
I've thrown away
went
20
down to
bucks
my
on
high
dumber
school
things.
reunion. I drove to Massachusetts that day, but it wasn't much on my mind.
yeah,
I've done dumber things.
to watch golf on TV, I would.
Well,
like
the course
to get
sounds like the
paid.
course is great. The course
would
is
Wait,
pretty
wait,
cool.
Pay to
Again,
watch golf
guys,
on TV.
we just had a younger generation.
Sorry.
He said, and I quote, "For me to watch golf, you would have to pay me."
on TV.
You play
yeah.
golf.
I play golf and it's a lot of fun, but I mean, I'm not gonna watch
But Nick,
it.
and admit as we head
I'll
into
watch the Masters,
as we head into January, isn't it kind of cool to see just some
Oh.
green and warmth? That means nothing.
It makes me mad because I'm not there. I get no enjoyment out of it.
Hawk, one
Tell you
other-
what, next year you're going to have to get a fill-in for me because I've already told my boy Joe.
We're talking next. We're talking next summer. We're not losing you.
No,
forever.
next year sometime. I told Joe, I said, if we get a winter that starts in October like this one did,
No, you're out of here for a while.
I'm going to just come to Texas and go to College Station for a week
Yeah.
just to get the hell out.
Well, can I tell you something? When I got done my trip, we stayed at a Tampa Stadium Hotel, maybe half mile away from the Buccaneers ballpark. You literally, and I read today that there's a good chance that Giants playing Tampa down there next year, and the odds of that happening is
why don't
pretty
you go to
remote.
that- why don't you go to that game instead of,
right?
Northern
I told
NJ
my
and-
wife, and she knows nothing about football. I said, "Boy, if the Giants play down here, let's fly down here, spend a few days, and just walk to the ballpark." But I'm just sitting there, David, by the pool, thinking, "Oh, Nighthawk, you're the greatest hockey player in the world, and you're about ready to become a free agent. Do I want to play for the Canadians? Do I want to play for the Bruins? Do I want to play for the Oilers?
No, I want to play for the Lightning
I want to
or-
play for the Lightning. It's like 68 degrees. Okay, and every day I said, boy, what a great day to golf. And I said, I would become a Tampa Bay Lightning, and if David Handy was on my team, David Handy and I would have a tee time every game at 1:15, play 9 holes, then we'd go straight to the arena.
Well, you'd have good luck with that. You'd have to take a pay cut because the Lightning are in quite the financial situation right now.
Is that just? I mean, just
They, I mean,
lousy
they've
attendance?
just no.
Best
They've-
team in hockey.
They
They're
have the
great.
best team in
Talking
hockey. They have
great
like
team.
6 20-goal scorers, and they just can't afford to pay them
just
all.
can't
They're like
pay
they're
them.
going to be like the Blackhawks.
There's always seats available at the Lightning
yeah.
game.
But I
Hawk, one
mean,
other golf note worth noting. I just got my Sports Illustrated today. Tiger's Back, a new behind-the-scenes documentary, chronicles the comeback season of golf's most intriguing performer. Sunday night, 9:30. Tiger Woods' Return of the Roar. ESPN 9:30 Sunday
Okay.
night. Probably
Duly-
watchable. Tiger coming off a pretty good year.
And also, what occurred, I fancy myself not as good as David, as a history expert and a geography expert. So UVM plays Lipscomb, and I'm thinking, is that a
Where in the heck is
right?
Lipscomb?
I'm thinking, is that
I
for
wouldn't.
like?
I wouldn't unless I read it.
I'm thinking, is that an
Tennessee.
ointment for diaper rash?
Well, this is a
What
good
the heck
team.
is
Good team
pad-
too.
not only have I, never
Basketball?
heard of the
Yeah,
school.
I hadn't heard of them either.
Not even, and they're a great team.
They're good.
I had heard of them before.
Well, they made some noise post. They won their conference last year.
Yes.
Didn't they either win? Did they win one of the play-in games or something?
No, they didn't win
Did
a
they
playoff.
didn't they play a decent game,
But they
though?
played in the.
We
they
haven't
played
lost
in
a
the
game in a
tournament.
while, have we?
Well, we just did.
To
Oh, to
Lipscomb,
Lipscomb?
They beat us by
Oh,
like
Lipscomb.
35.
91
UVM.
to 66.
Yeah.
Where, down
Nothing
there?
like in
In
Nashville.
Nashville.
Oh yeah, Nashville.
I mean,
Lipscomb is very good.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but again, geography, I'm usually
don't-
pretty
don't
good.
feel bad. I
was
don't think I'd ever
I don't
heard-
have a clue. Who are these
Yeah, I
people?
went to
UVM
college in a
was-
neighboring state. I had never heard of the school.
UVM was very, very short-handed in this game.
all right.
The Duncans didn't play. Lamb was largely shut down. So
They'll try to regroup a week from tonight at home against Dartmouth. Is the
But
next
Duke,
game.
I think the following Saturday, they're home, which I would like to go.
Hey, I told you.
But all of a sudden, when I'm looking at the schedule,
gotta-
it said ESPN 3, meaning it's on your computer, meaning you can go on your voice remote and say, Vermont Catamounts on ESPN 3.
No, really.
You know what?
The next Saturday, Jan 5th for the record, they're at Albany. The next Saturday,
All right,
Jan
okay.
12th, they're home to Hartford.
Hartford with decent.
You know what really
I'd
makes me
certainly
mad
consider. I mean, I finally did catch a game. It was great.
is I go to most of the home games.
Yeah, Nick's here.
And it just makes me mad now that all the games are on ESPN 3, ESPN Plus. They take a damn media timeout every 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and
they
it's
really-
awful.
every-
It's
every
awful.
five?
Yes, yes.
So
They really-
bad.
every
Watching a
5?
game live and seeing these media timeouts, it's like, okay, here's a big run for UVM. They've just scored 6 straight points. Oh, let's kill this run with a 10-minute media time.
Oh, I say that all the
When
time.
UVM used
thing.
to have a good hockey team, they'd be on Nesson every now and
Yeah.
then, and I'd be at the game, and son of a, and
Right.
but David, you witnessed it firsthand a couple weeks ago when you went to that Canadians game. All the commercials that they'd have a face-off and they stand there literally for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They
Terrible to watch a TV
God, 3.
game.
I can't believe we're down.
Montreal, at least, I'll give them credit. They do. The best part of that game was the introductions and the
They know.
pregame
Yeah,
ceremony.
isn't that stuff cool?
All right.
That's pretty wild, and they do find a way to entertain you during the TV timeouts. But
Do they still
Do
blast
they
the
kill you?
music?
Do they blast you with music, of course?
oh, they got stuff going, and they got prizes, and they got races.
Yeah, Hawk and I
and
have talked about
They
that
got
many
more
times.
carnival. It's a carnival.
Well, like Norwich, I go to Norwich games.
Do they?
Great place, and they blast
Do they
the music.
really?
And again, you look at
That
who's
place
at the
at
game. They're all like
Kreuzberg's-
55 to
It's not-
85
it's
years
not a
old.
bunch of
So I'm
young
saying,
people,
if you're going
right?
to kill us with music, play some 60s and some.
Kreuzberg's kind of echoey though. That place, there's a lot of just like hollow
Yeah.
feeling in there, especially playing in there in high school. Like it was just like your ears would hurt afterwards because there's so much echoing.
Hawk, quickly, a great. Any quick highlight from your trip,
Barn.
buddy? Good to have you back. Good
The
trip.
Canary Islands, if you get a chance, right off Africa, owned by Spain.
I think my kid and
3
his
islands we
mother. I think
went.
they might have been just there too.
One of the islands, and they were formed 20 million years ago. It sounds like a lot, but Earth was formed, I think, 4.5 billion years ago.
A while back.
relatively new.
It's relatively new. But one of the islands, if you just woke up from a drunken stupor, you would think you landed on the moon. It's all the lava, the
Really?
rocks.
Not really.
Just a great, never seen anything like it. My wife and I jumped on a camel, went for a ride.
Really?
And the poor camel, I saw him taking some Doan's pills for a backache after we got off. Poor thing. Because we were on a smaller camel. The guy looked at us and said, you better get on the big camel. And tour guy goes, don't feel bad that you're riding on the camels, because if these camels weren't doing this, they've already been eaten for supper at some
Really?
point. Because camels are non-existent with machinery now. You don't need camels.
But good trip. It went well.
Good trip, temps in the low 70s every day. Got up every day, said, what a great day for golf. But, read a lot of books, crossed the
Again,
Atlantic.
a lot of Mediterranean. Good hit of the Mediterranean.
No Mediterranean. Went down the
really?
Canaries in 1 week, crossed the Atlantic, went to the Bahamas and to Tampa. That
was
was a
all right.
repositioning cruise
Okay.
to get out of.
But you flew.
We
You
went
flew
to
over
Barcelona.
You flew to Barcelona, right?
And before I run out of time, flew into Lisbon. They had to check your passport. The rope line was 3 times bigger than this building. Took 2 hours and 15 minutes to get to immigration.
Really?
And again, old people, you just shuffle your feet.
Had you run into that before?
Not that slow. And of course, being the Nighthawk, I had zero sleep going into the trip.
Wow.
Rented a car out of Burlington, drove to Logan Airport. I'm getting into Boston. I told my wife, I said, oh, I have to say goodbye. I'm tired. Anyway, I should talk to her. Anyway, now listen to how profound this ending is.
Right. No, as opposed to my
Listen.
botching. Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't putting
Remember,
it down
folks,
at all.
You do not have to be a great athlete to be a good sport. Does that make sense?
Very good.
So that is the conclusion of tonight's show. We'll see you folks next year in 2019. Ciao for now.
Yeah.